स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I have chosen, guidance to pure life. Spiritual life means pure life. So, we will understand the significance of spiritual life only when we are ready to go in the spiritual path. That means, if the people are engaged in activities other than spiritual, they become totally ignorant of the supreme significance of spiritual life. But in course of time they come to realize the way they are living is not giving them any peace or joy in this world. On the other hand, they are put into lots of troubles and difficult situations and miseries. But it takes a long time for them to realize that they have gone in a wrong path. If a person is aspiring for peace and joy, certainly one has to take up spiritual path. Spiritual path does not mean that you should run away from the world, disconnect yourself with all association with friends and relations, family, etc. Not that you should get into totally a solitary place to live in one's own way of thinking. It is not exactly like that. Nobody in a way can run away from the world. All are in the world. Those who are following spiritual path and those who are living a worldly life, All of them are in this world only. But there's a lot of difference. The difference is in our attitude. So it depends upon how our mind is tuned. If the mind is running after the things of the world, if it is running after the pleasures of this world, that means person is not ready to take up spiritual path. Until he takes up spiritual path, he cannot understand the meaning or the real significance of peace or joy. You can never get that sublime peacefulness and great joy. You can never expect in the world. Only by training the mind in a spiritual way, one can expect real peace and joy in this life itself, in this world itself. Sri Ramakrishna has given tremendous instructions for all the people seeking spirituality, irrespective of caste, color, creed or country. Everyone has a spiritual potency. Whoever it is. The most wicked man also has the spiritual potency in him. Only that spiritual potency has been covered up by the wickedness, by the impurities. So, he is not able to enjoy the real peace or happiness. So it is very important for us to know definitely what are the ways to pure life. Spiritual teachers, masters, great incarnations, by living the life of spirituality, they have shown to us through their life and most valuable teachings how to conduct oneself in life. Everything is given. Everything is given. But still we are suffering because we are not ready or we are not preparing ourselves to go in spiritual way. So that is the problem. Well, let us diagnose clearly what are the things that are obstructing us in our path and how we should turn ourselves in spiritual ways. That's most important. As you know, people are constantly troubled by anger, hatred. These are all considered the impurities of the mind. When a person is swayed by these qualities, how can he expect joy or peace? What's the way? But Sri Ramakrishna gives assurance and hope. But there is hope, there is assurance only when you turn yourself at least once towards the divine. Somehow you must try to think, well, is there really a way that I can uplift myself from this wretched condition? I have become slave of the senses. Is there a way to get out of this situation? If a person really feels that he should take up higher way of life, then the way opens up. It's not reserved only for selected people. It is meant for all. Spiritual life is meant for everyone, more so for wicked people. Wicked people need more. They need to know more about the spiritual values and get into spiritual life. So God belongs to everyone. All are His children. So when that concept is accepted, then there is hope, then there is assurance. That means you shouldn't have any egoistic or boastful attitude. Oh, what do I care about God? What is people talk all day through, day in and day out, they talk about God. What is God? All these boastful utterances must be stopped with forthwith. That's the first step one should do. Never be boastful. Be humble. Everybody is following in his own way. You have no right to criticize anybody in any manner. So, one should take seriously about the spiritual path he has to follow. Then you will see everything opens up. Everything opens up. Then the spiritual potency try to blossom. Then more and more we take up spiritual ideas seriously and sincerely, the more and more we feel joy and happiness in the life. That's the indication. That's the indication. So, it's true, we have all have worldly tendencies. The mind runs after the futile objects of the world. It just locks up there, forgets itself in the enjoyment of the pleasures of the world. So, first you have to watch what is it that bothers you most. And then you must instill faith in yourself that I am aspiring so many things in this world. Why not I aspire for God? Let me try. Sri Ramakrishna also did try. He tried like that only. From the day of his starting worship of Divine Mother, Sri Ramakrishna said, if the Divine is manifesting in this image, that should reveal to me. I am prepared to undergo any discipline required. That's how he started. 12 years he continuously practiced concentration, meditation, worship and prayers. At the conclusion of the 12th year, he was overwhelmed with the vision of the Divine Mother. And the whole truth was revealed. Then he declared, well, God is there, it is proved. And Sri Ramakrishna is telling positively, without any ambiguity, without any wavering. Straightforward he says, yes, there is God. If there is anything that is real, and that is God and God alone. And he said, I have seen God. You can also see God. You can also have the same experience as myself. The point is, everybody should try oneself or herself. Because the revelation of God is only through experience. You can't simply describe it. It is like this, it is like that, etc. You have to experience it in your own heart. And the moment the impurities of the heart are cleared off, you will be enjoying the immense bliss of the divine. So, Sri Ramakrishna very clearly points out to us that instead of desiring all sorts of things in this world, desire God, desire to see God, desire to see the divine. Desire to be in the company of the divine. If you can't get rid of anger, which for most of the people bothers, it bothers. Sri Ramakrishna gives a nice suggestion. Change its direction. Assume the tamasic attitude of bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. What? I have repeated the hallowed name of Durga, and shall I not be liberated? How can I be a sinner anymore? How can I be bound anymore? If you can't get rid of temptation, direct it toward God. Be infatuated with God's beauty. If you can't get rid of pride, then be proud to say that you are the servant of God. You are the child of God. This way, turn all the 6 passions towards God. So you have to be intelligent and smart in dealing with yourself. A devotee said, it is very hard to control the sense organs. They are like horses. It is necessary to prevent them from seeing at all. Sri Ramakrishna said, a person need not fear anything if but once he receives the grace of God. If but once he obtains the vision of God. If but once he attains self-knowledge. Then the 6 passions, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, all these cannot do him any harm. They are made inactive. They become dull. Eternally perfect souls like Narad and Prahlad did not have to take the trouble to put blinkers on their eyes. The child who holds his father's hand while walking along the narrow buck in the paddy field may loosen its hold in a moment of carelessness and slip into the ditch. But it is quite different if the father holds the child's hand, and the child never falls into the ditch. Great sages have childlike natures. Before God, all these sages are always like children. They have no pride. Their strength is the strength of God, the strength of their Father. They have nothing to call their own. They are firmly convinced of that. Then a devotee asked a question. Sir, can you make a horse move forward without first covering his eyes with blinkers? Can one realize God without first controlling the passions? Sri Ramakrishna answered very nicely. He said, what you say is according to the path of discrimination. It is known as Jnana Yoga. Through that path too, one attains God. The Jnanis say that an aspirant must first of all purify his heart. First he needs spiritual exercises. Without doing any exercise, you can't expect your body to develop biceps and muscles. So you have to do spiritual practices, then only you will attain knowledge. But God can also be realized through the path of devotion. Once the devotee develops love for the lotus feet of God and enjoys the singing of his name and attributes, he doesn't have to make a special effort to restrain his senses. For such a devotee, the sense organs come under control of themselves. Suppose a man has just lost his son and is mourning his death. Can he be in a mood to quarrel with others that very day? Or can he enjoy a feast in the house of a friend? Can he that very day show his pride before others or engage himself in some sense pleasures? If a moth discovers light, can it remain in darkness any longer? Sri Ramakrishna's answers are very pointed and clear. Only we must be ready to receive the spiritual ideas. Initial purity of the heart is important. Then it will develop slowly. Initial kindling, initial awakening is important to turn one's mind to spiritual ways. So when Sri Ramakrishna said all these things, the devotees said with a smile, of course, it cannot. It would rather fly into the flame and perish. Regarding the moth, the devotee said. But Sri Ramakrishna answered, oh no, that's not so. It is not like a moth jumping into light and burning itself. It is not like that. A lover of God does not burn himself to death like a moth, because the light to which he rushes is like the light of a gem. That light is brilliant, no doubt, but it is also cooling and soothing. That light doesn't scorch his body, it gives him joy and peace. That's the point, that's the difference. Many times our scriptures describe the nature of God. Koti Surya Prabha. Koti Surya Prabha, the shining of millions of suns. But though it is shining with the brilliance of the millions of suns, but it is cooling, soothing and cooling. It's just like winter sun here in Chicago. Bright sun, beautiful to look, but you don't feel the scorch of the sun. You don't feel, because of the coolness of the climate. So, the spiritual teachers give directions, give guidance in so many different ways. Another great sage, Vasishtha Maharshi, he calls a person mumukshu. In fact, that is the first qualification required for a person to go forward in spiritual life. That is mumukshutva. Shankaracharya also says in the Vivekananda. It means aspiring for liberation. I want to get out of this bondage. I want to get out of this worldly mess. I want to get out of this suffering and miseries. Unbearable. So, you are forced to push yourself away out of this situation. That means he becomes fully aware of the bondage, and he intensely longs to become free. Intent longing to become free. That's the meaning of mumukshutva. He is one who has thought about the world of objects and events, and who has thought about himself. He wants to know the purpose and meaning of life. Is it just to be in this world, play the game and get out? Is it all? Is there any special meaning in the life? A person whose thoughts are devoted to these problems will find that normal life and normal activities, which ordinarily people involve with, don't give any satisfaction. Sri Ramchandra, there's a beautiful dialogue between Rama and Vasishtha. That's how we got the famous scripture Yoga Vasishtha. If you have not read, please read it. Beautiful text. It deals with spiritual ideas immensely. Rama asserts that whatever is present in this world gives rise to pain after some time. He reports that people engage themselves in various activities in the way in which children engage themselves in play. He also realizes that man's desires are fickle, like a monkey which jumps from one tree to another. Rama requests Vasishtha to tell him whether there is any state of existence that is stable and free from suffering. He also asks the crucial question whether happiness can be sought by engaging oneself in various activities or by renouncing them all. According to Vasishtha, there are two basic propositions, namely that the chief aim of an individual is to seek happiness, and that this aim cannot be fulfilled by the pursuit of sense pleasures or by seeking the gratification of egoistic needs for status, power, etc. It must be recognized that both these propositions are based on the experience of every human being. Vasishtha declares that the desire for worldly objects destroys wisdom and upsets the balance of mind. Desire makes one a victim to infatuation. That is moha. Infatuation in turn makes him lose discrimination, viveka. Why does a man become a victim to his desires and infatuations? This is due to ignorance about the nature of things and about the nature of the self. Therefore, the remedy for suffering is the removal of ignorance and attainment of jnana or wisdom. Sorrows do not affect a man of wisdom, a man who knows what ought to be known and who develops the right attitude towards things and his self. Consciousness of suffering, the awareness that the pursuit of sense pleasures and ego desires constitute, however, only the preconditions. This awareness by itself does not lead automatically to wisdom. What is necessary is the cultivation of four qualities: tranquility of mind, contentment. These are very important. And sadhu sangha, holy association, that is the company of the wise. And then the spirit of inquiry, rational investigation. These are 4 qualities very important for us to cultivate. Further, all these 4 qualities can be cultivated only by personal effort and constant practice. Problems of life are there. You must neither succumb to them nor try to avoid them. Then what should we do? We must face them, analyze them, understand them. We must develop a constructive attitude towards them by cultivating contentment towards what we have and what we obtain on the one hand, and tranquility of mind on the other. A devotee asked Sri Ramakrishna, "Sir, most of the people are living the life of householder. Is it ever possible that one can realize God while leading the life of a householder?" This person is asking on behalf of all the householders in the world. Sri Ramakrishna really, with a smile, he answers. These are all in Gospel. When the devotee asked, "Is it possible to realize God living the life of a householder?" Sri Ramakrishna said, "Why not? Why not? But there is a way to realize God. The way is live in the world like a mud fish. The mud fish lives in the mud, but itself remains unstained." He gives another example. Or live in the world like a woman whose mind is on her lover. She attends to her household duties, but her mind is always on her sweetheart. Do your duties in the world, fixing your mind on God. But this is extremely difficult. Then devotee asks, "Then what's the way, sir? If it is difficult, then what is the way?" Sri Ramakrishna again said, "There is a way. One succeeds if one develops a strong spirit of renunciation. Give up at once with determination what you know to be unreal." Once, when I was seriously ill, I was taken to the physician Ganga Prasad Sen, Sri Ramakrishna said. The physician said to me, "I shall give you a medicine, but you must not drink any water. You may take pomegranate juice." He makes concession. Everyone wondered how I could live without water. Is it ever possible? But Sri Ramakrishna said, I was determined not to drink it. I said to myself, I shall drink only milk. Then Sri Ramakrishna tells, you have to spend a few days in solitude. Because you have to get out of your present surroundings. Get out for a while to a different place where the environment is totally different, where you are free from all encumbrances, all botherations. That helps you to purify your mind. That's the purpose of our conducting retreats, both here in Chicago as well as in Ganges. We have arranged retreat for the whole summer. Whole summer. Almost every month you have got retreat. In June month also we have got, in the last weekend of this month in Ganges we have got retreat, Bhajan Bhakti. They are linked together, Bhajan and Bhakti. how one can rise up and enjoy the bliss of God. Turn yourself into gold and then live wherever you please. After realizing God and divine love in solitude, one may live in this world as well. That's why I ask the youngsters to stay with me. For why I ask them to stay with me? Sri Ramakrishna says, because they will develop love of God by staying here a few days. After that, they can very well lead the life of a householder. They are not afraid of that. A devotee again asks a question. If God is responsible for everything, then why should people speak of good and evil, virtue and vice? One commits sin also by the will of God. Isn't that so? And the devotee asked, how can we understand the will of God? Sri Ramakrishna answered, there is no doubt that virtue and vice exist in the world, but God himself is unattached to them. He gives the example. There may be good and bad smells in the air, but the air itself is not attached to them. The very nature of God's creation is that good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness will always exist in this world. World means the mixture of good and evil. The conversation again turned to the life of the householder. Sri Ramakrishna said to the devotees, you see, by leading a householder's life, a person needlessly dissipates his mental powers. The loss he thus incurs can be made up if he takes to spiritual way of life. The first birth is a gift of the Father. Then comes the second birth, when one is invested with the sacred thread, when they get Gayatri Mantra. There is still another birth at the time of being initiated into spiritual life. So when persons get initiation, desire to lead the spiritual life, that is the special birth for the person. The two obstacles to spiritual life are main obstacles. They are lust and greed. Attachment to sense pleasures diverts one from the way leading to God. Man doesn't know what it is that causes his downfall. A devotee said, I find it extremely difficult for a householder to realize God. How few people can lead the life you prescribe for them. I have not found anyone. Sri Ramakrishna said, why should that be so? Why should that be so? I have heard of a deputy magistrate named Pratap Singh. He is a great man. He has many virtues, compassion and devotion to God. He meditates on God. Once he sent for me. Certainly there are people like him. The man realizes Brahman in this life, then he attains great bliss. Otherwise, great is his loss. He who wants him gets him. It is very easy to attain him, for he is so very kind. But who wants him? There is a rub. The Lord has promised that if one searches him in the right way, he will manifest himself to such a person in the twinkling of an eye. But who searches like that? Such is the force of Maya. She, the Divine Mother, has kept the person so busy with other things that the person finds no inclination to realize God. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that in a granary, A few grains of puffed rice coated with molasses are kept in a winnowing basket. The rats eat this to their heart's content and do not get into the bagfuls of grain stocked at the very place. They are just satisfied with the puffed rice spread out there. Similarly, person is mad with relations, friends, kith and kin, and other things of this world, and never cares for the bliss of God realization, though he is very near within himself. Such is Maya. Those who resort to me alone cross over this Maya. Shri Krishna says in the Gita, take refuge in him with all thy heart. By his grace shalt thou attain supreme peace and eternal abode. You must have faith, Shraddha. Then there is no more fear. In the spiritual world, Shraddha is the one thing that leads to progress. In the Kathopanishad we find how Nachiketas, through Shraddha, attained knowledge. In Yoga philosophy also we find Shraddha praised. In Bhagavad Gita also the Lord says, the man with Shraddha, the devoted, the master of one's senses, attains this knowledge. Having attained knowledge, one attains at once the supreme peace. These are facts of experience. One perceives them as it were within oneself. So what matters is how people look at it. What one experiences, one doesn't doubt, even if others say against it. One is filled with bliss. He neither gives nor denies. It is no wonder if one attains this state through his grace. The darkness of ages is lighted up in a second by a single matchstick. Uncle Moon is everybody's uncle, goes the Bengali proverb. So is God everybody's. There is no doubt about this. Why should you feel weak? You are all children of the Divine Mother and therefore possess infinite strength. He whose mother is the Divine Mother herself, of whom shall he be afraid? There can be no want of strength in her children. Through her grace, there is infinite power latent in you. She is really the mother. It is not a mere imagination. Thou art the power of Vishnu, of infinite strength art thou, and the cause of this universe. Thou hast deluded everyone, and thy grace is what leads to liberation in this life. Such is our mother. So what fear can there be? As one thinks, so one becomes. So if you think you are weak, weak you will become. But why should the children of the mother think themselves weak? What is impossible for you through her grace? How long does it take to free oneself of the ideas, I and mine? Mother, through her grace, can do it for you in a moment, and really she does it too. No person who has not true love towards God can be religious. Religion begins when attraction towards God is greater than attraction towards the world. The attraction towards the world means egotism, attraction towards God means self-surrender. Actually, very few of us believe in God all the time. How do we know this? Because we allow anxieties and fears to arise in our minds. If we really have faith in God and in His infinite power of goodness, we can never feel fearful about anything. What makes the mind impure? Desire. Free the mind of all desires, and at once it becomes pure. A man, however, has no idea of God, can never get rid of desire. The lover of God sees that instead of bringing enjoyment, these desires are the source of all miseries. He understands that in God alone he can find the satisfaction of all desires, for He is infinite bliss and all other pleasures are finite and perishable. We seek matter first and spirit afterwards. We should reverse the process. Our hearts also must be free from any ulterior motive. If we love God for what we can get from Him in the world, that means we really love the world, not God. And we can never be true devotees. The true devotee loves God just for the joy of loving Him, because God is the beloved. Ananda or bliss is the best definition of God. The real ideal of every human being is Satchidananda, eternal life, infinite knowledge, and everlasting bliss. For all men wish to live forever, to be all-knowing, and to have eternal bliss. But God alone is all life. Throne where God should be, a most worthless slave has been given place. Who is that? It is the ego. When you know this, then drive out the ego. When you do this and become the slave of servant of God instead, you will realize your eternal nature. Being one with God, all fear of death will go, peace will come to you, and you will taste true Ananda. So long as we have no ideal to follow, we will have to heed the calls of our lower nature. A characterless person is a slave to all worldly things and pleasures. All religions teach the necessity of hero worship. Who is a hero? The man who has realized his oneness with God. He is hero. Who has self-knowledge. For religion is not a matter of talk or learning or faith, but a matter of realization. A man of realization alone is the true teacher, the guru. So you must hear, study, understand, and then try to realize with the help of the real guru. The path which leads you to realize life eternal is not by the exercise of your outgoing energies, but by your ingoing energies. You must collect your energies and direct them inwards. The energy is being dissipated through our senses in so many ways. In engaging in so many activities outside, all our energy is just exhausted. You have been worshipping this God of your body for so many lives. It is not easy to begin to worship the true God all at once. If you would raise yourself, you must crucify the body and conquer the senses. Always mixing with the world and identifying ourselves with the body, we are prone to forget religion, which awakens us to the real state of affairs which we are in, and opens to us the gate of eternal bliss, and keeps us away from being drawn down to the object life of beasts, doing nothing but eating and drinking and making merry. One should cultivate goodwill for others in one's mind with great assiduity, cordiality, and sincerity. One who keeps one's mind ever filled with goodwill for others can get 1,000 faults of his own burnt to ashes, and he comes to be remembered as a saint. Through goodwill for others, he rises from lassitude to activity, from poverty to wealth, from miserliness to generosity, from insignificance to fame, and from ignorance to wisdom, nay, from muteness to oratory, and from lameness to a scaler of mountains. So powerful is goodwill. Goodwill is so pure and holy, so strong and vital, that even if one cultivates it for oneself, that goodwill converts itself into the welfare of others at last, indirectly and imperceptibly. To the outsiders, it seems at the beginning as though saintly people are engaged in their own welfare, hugging good wishes for themselves alone to their hearts, and engaging themselves in spiritual practices for their own good. But when they attain perfection, it becomes obvious to all that they cannot help spending the remaining portions of their lives in doing good to others alone. A good man means a man with good wishes for others. The sensible man does not try to diagnose his own disease and prescribe medicine for himself by reading medical books in case of disease. A doctor's advice should be sought when a person is suffering from disease. In the same way, if after reading many books and scriptures, one proceeds to choose for himself a particular spiritual discipline, his mind may become confused and troubled by doubts and misgivings. Progress may be interrupted, and waste of effort and even harm may result. The reason is that the various scriptures contain divergent or even contradictory directions and methods suited to aspirants of different temperaments and capacities and different stages of life. It is therefore dangerous in many cases to decide for yourself what is exactly suitable for you. So, the need of the Guru. Guru alone can direct you to the right path. That's why spiritual knowledge has to be acquired direct from the Guru. Know that the initiation and instructions given by him are the only path for you to follow. If you do the spiritual practices as enjoined by him unswervingly and with full faith in them and in him, you are sure to achieve success in course of time. In any event, never give up these practices and take to other methods under anybody else's advice. If you jump from one thing to another, the only result will be that you will lose your way and drift about without gaining anything. Never think yourself to be weak. Have firm faith in yourself. Think there is nothing that I cannot do. I can do everything if I will. Why should you acknowledge defeat to your mind? Know that if you can subdue it, the whole world will be under your feet. One who has no self-confidence doesn't have real faith in God. Swami Vivekananda has said that the real atheist is he who has no faith in himself. Nobody listens to the words of one who has no self-confidence, and God also does not listen to his prayers. Your mind will inevitably be restless at the time of meditation, so long as the idea has not taken firm root in you that the world is insubstantial and transitory, and that he alone is the only reality. Love of God will grow, and at the same time the mind will become calm to the extent that one is freed from the thirst for sense pleasures. All the pleasures of the world will become trivial and distasteful if even a particle of God's love is experienced. Japa, meditation, ritualistic worship, prayer, remembrance, reading sacred books, association with holy men, godly conversation, retiring into solitude, and thinking spiritual thoughts. Whichever of these attracts you, according to mood and opportunity, and gives you joy, take advantage of that and do that. But meditation and japa are the main things. Never miss them for a single day, however occupied you may be, or even in times of sickness or infirmity, in misfortune or calamity. In such circumstances, if you cannot or do not find convenient to carry on your practice in full measure, at least make a salutation, pray and do japa for at least 10 or 15 minutes. The idea is you should not give up for any reason the spiritual practices. Asana is that posture in which one can sit for meditation steadily and with ease for a long time. But the spine has to be kept straight, and the chest, neck and head should be held erect so that the entire weight of the upper part of the body may fall on the ribs and the chest may not sag. So one has to practice spiritual disciplines following a fixed posture. The moment you become absorbed in contemplation, you experience unbounded joy. Days and nights pass away in the blissful consciousness of God. Be careful not to speak of your spiritual moods and experiences to everybody, least of all to those of a worldly nature. It may hinder your growth. However, if you exchange your experiences with one of a like mind, whose temperament is in harmony with your own, you may be helped in your progress. Both of you are travelers on the same path. Perhaps your companion has already walked along it and is aware of its pitfalls. Benefited by his experiences, you may be able to avoid those dangers and difficulties. Do you know why you should seek the association of holy persons? Their experiences are a great help to a spiritual aspirant. When you visit a new place, if you have the help of a good guide, you will be able to see within a short time all that is worth seeing there. Also, you will be saved from the dangers and difficulties into which strangers are likely to fall. Similarly, from the company of advanced spiritual souls, you will gather many valuable hints and your struggle will be simplified. This life may come to an end any moment. Nobody knows when. Be equipped for the journey with spiritual treasures. To go empty-handed to an unknown place involves much suffering and sorrow. Birth is inevitably followed by death. Death means going to an unknown place. So you must prepare yourself for the journey. Always be ready for the great call. Here you have every opportunity to grow spiritually. Struggle now to reach reality. Hold on to the pillar. Have tremendous faith in yourself. I can know God. With such faith, forge ahead and you will reach Him. And life will be blessed. Free yourself from the wheel of birth and death. Be His eternal companion. Banish all fear and weakness. Never weaken your mind by thinking of past mistakes. That's how many people suffer more, brooding over the past. Sin only exists in man's eye. In God's eye, there is none. One glance from God and the sins of many, many births are wiped away. You have come to see Ramakrishna. Hold on to him. You will have nothing to worry about. You must have a regular routine for spiritual practices. You must have certain fixed hours for meditation and study. Under all circumstances, follow this routine devotedly. Steadfastness is very important. Without it, no success is possible. By steadfastness alone, the mind becomes absorbed in God. Unless absorption is achieved, freedom from the temptations of the world is impossible. Lust, anger, delusion, these are strong enemies. Be strong in the strength of God and escape from the net of Maya. Life is flowing quickly away like a stream. The day that is once gone can never be recalled. Make the best use of your time. At the last moment it will be no good crying alas, alas. So when the time is with you, when you have got little energy, when you have got some energy to think, do it properly. Utilize it in the right way. always hold on to spiritual ideas and aspire for the purity of heart, then certainly you'll be able to enjoy real peace and happiness in this world before you get out of this world. So, all the spiritual masters have given tremendous teachings for us. They are our guides. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, every page has got instruction. Every page, every para has got instruction. Only we should be sincerely aspiring for spiritual life. Then only it is possible to get rid of these impurities. If you don't give your mind to spiritual ways, then the already impure mind becomes more stubborn. It becomes more and more stubborn. We have made it stubborn, passing through so many births, and we ourselves have to make effort to free ourselves. So let us be sincere and aspire for pure life. Sri Ramakrishna has come in this modern age to teach the humanity how to love God, how to purify one's heart, how to practice spiritual disciplines. Let us follow them. Build up your spiritual personality. That's very important. Thank you. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He nourish us, may we not be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.